After touching something true spirituality, another question can quietly appear. Now what? How do I actually live? How do I make decisions? How do I work? How do I deal with money? How do I continue relationships? How do I choose a direction without falling back into fear, pressure, or force? Because spiritual awakening may bring peace, it may bring space, it might help us see that we are not only the separate self, but after that, we still live a human life. And maybe the next stage is not escaping life. Maybe it is learning how to live from a different inner place, a place that feels more relaxed, more grounded, more honest, more aligned. So in this video, I want to explore a very practical question. How can we find direction after spiritual awakening? Not by forcing, not by escaping reality, but by learning to see ourselves, our lives, and our experiences from a clearer perspective. I think this is where self-realization starts to become very practical. When we are deeply identified with the old self, we often see our lives through resistance. We may think, I need to escape this job. I need to become a completely different person. My past is holding me back. My current life isn't spiritual enough. But when there is a more neutral, effortless awareness, something begins to change. We gain a little distance from the story we have been telling ourselves. Not in a cold or detached way, but with more clarity. And from that place, we begin to see our life differently. The job we wanted to escape may have taught us valuable skills. The identity we wanted to reject may have developed resilience, discipline, creativity, or compassion. Even the experiences we once wished had never happened may become part of what allows us to understand and help other people. So perhaps awakening is not about rejecting our old self, and it is not about escaping our human life. Perhaps it is about seeing both with new eyes. When our relationship with life changes, even the same life can begin to feel different. You may still go to the same workplace, meet the same friends, take care of your family, answer emails, cook dinner, pay bills, attend meetings, continue with the same responsibilities. Outwardly, very little may have changed, but inwardly, something is different. There is less resistance, less heaviness, less need to prove yourself or escape your life. Instead, there is more ease, more groundedness, more presence, perhaps even a quiet enjoyment of ordinary moments. The outer actions may look almost the same, but the place they come from has changed. And sometimes that is already a profound transformation. Awakening does not always change what we do. Sometimes it changes how we do it. And naturally, that begins to influence the direction of our life. Perhaps the real question is not how do we escape practical life through spirituality? Maybe the real question is how can inner stillness guide outer direction? How can awareness shape the choices we make? How can peace become action? How can surrender meet work, relationships, creativity, and responsibility? This is the question I have become more interested in because I don't think most people need more spiritual concepts. I think many of us are looking for something much more practical. How do we bring this understanding into our everyday life? How do we make decisions without constantly fighting ourselves? How do we build a life that feels both grounded and true? These are not small questions. In many ways, they are the beginning of the journey after awakening. And I have been learning about this through my own life as well. I began to see all of this in my own life. There were moments of awareness, peace, and self-realization, moments where I could clearly feel that life was about much more than achievement, identity, or external success. But those moments didn't answer all of my practical questions. I still wondered, what should I do for work? How do I learn? How do I earn money? Where should I live? Should I continue as a software engineer? Should I keep building this YouTube channel? Should I move into coaching? What kind of life actually feels aligned with me? For a while, I found that confusing because part of me knew that forcing wasn't the answer. But I also knew that avoiding life wasn't the answer either. So instead of trying to figure everything out, I gave myself permission not to know. Rather than searching for immediate answers, I started paying closer attention to my own experience. I noticed which thoughts kept repeating, what I was resisting, what quietly gave me energy, and what left me feeling heavy. I tried not to close doors too quickly. I gave myself time. At the same time, I built a few simple structures that could support me. A morning routine, space for reflection, time for creating, time for learning, time for rest. Nothing dramatic, just small practices that helped me stay grounded while life unfolded. If you are interested in those practical habits, I've linked another video where I talk about them in more details. And slowly, something began to change. After a few months of consistently observing my thoughts and reflecting each morning, I felt more grounded, clearer about what truly mattered to me. The confusion became softer. The fear didn't disappear, but it no longer made every decision for me. Instead, my intuition became a little easier to hear. Direction didn't arrive as one big answer. It came as small, repeated signals. This feels lighter. This feels meaningful. This feels worth continuing. And one place where I noticed this change most clearly was in the way I saw my old identity. One place where this became especially clear was in my relationship with my old identity as a software engineer. For a while, I almost wanted to reject that part of my life completely. After becoming more interested in spirituality, personal growth, and self-awareness, I felt that perhaps I needed to become someone entirely different. Someone who left all of that behind. So I started resisting the person I had been. The years I had spent learning, the career I had built, even the experiences that had shaped me. But over time, I realized that this resistance was also part of the old pattern. It wasn't freedom. It was still a reaction. As my mind became quieter, I started seeing my past differently. The skills I had developed, the problems I had learned to solve, the difficult experiences I had been through, none of them had been wasted. Instead of feeling like a burden, they started to feel like resources, like a foundation I could build upon. And perhaps the biggest surprise was this. I stopped resisting software engineering. I even started to enjoy it again. I enjoyed learning, enjoyed solving problems, and enjoyed becoming better at it. Not because I wanted to define myself by that identity again, but because I no longer felt trapped by it. That completely changed the way I look at my life. I realized that awakening wasn't asking me to erase my past. It was inviting me to see it with new eyes. And once I stopped rejecting my own experience, I became much more open to learning from the experiences of other people as well. As I became more open to my own experience, I also became more open to other people. And that taught me something unexpected. Sometimes one of the biggest ways to find direction is simply to go outside and talk to people. When we spend too much time inside our own minds, our world can become very small. We keep replaying the same thoughts, the same fears, the same story about who we are. But every person we meet carries a different perspective, a different culture, a different profession, a different way of living. And sometimes that's exactly what we need. Not because they have the answers, but because they remind us that there is more than one way to live, more than one way to work, more than one way to contribute. Those conversations don't have to be deep or life-changing. Often they begin with something very ordinary: work, food, travel, family, daily routines. But even ordinary conversations can quietly expand our perspective. Someone else's life can become a mirror. A different culture can show us another rhythm of living. A person from another generation can remind us what truly matters over time, not so we can copy their lives, but so we can discover new possibilities for our own. Because sometimes direction doesn't only emerge in silence. Sometimes life speaks through the people we meet, and that also changed the way I looked at my own experiences. As I reflected on my own journey, I began to notice something else. Maybe there are no purely good or bad experiences. Of course, some experiences are painful, some are disappointing, some genuinely hurt. I'm not suggesting we pretend otherwise, but over time, I started asking a different question. Instead of immediately asking, why is this happening to me? I found myself asking, what is this experience trying to show me? What am I being invited to notice? Sometimes an experience revealed what I truly wanted. Sometimes it showed me where I was still resisting. Sometimes it reminded me that I had outgrown an old way of living. And sometimes it simply asked me to slow down and pay attention. That doesn't mean we have to enjoy every difficult experience. It simply means we stay open enough to learn from it. Because if we are always forcing our way through life, we may miss what life is trying to teach us. And if we are always escaping discomfort, we may miss the opportunity to grow. Forcing and escaping are different, but they often come from the same place. Awareness invites us into something else, not passive acceptance, not helplessness, but, and perhaps that is why no experience is ever truly wasted. Every experience leaves us with a deeper understanding of ourselves and gently points us toward the next step. So, what does finding direction after awakening actually look like? I don't think it usually arrives as one perfect answer. More often, it begins with a small, honest step, a quiet curiosity, a gentle feeling of expansion, a repeated inner pull towards something that feels meaningful. You may not know your whole life purpose, and that's okay. Perhaps all you know today is one conversation you want to have, one skill you want to keep developing, one project that still feels alive, one truth you've been avoiding but are now ready to admit to yourself. Sometimes that is enough, because direction is rarely something we discover all at once. More often, it is something we build through small, honest movements, one grounded step at a time. If you feel spirituality aware, but still unsure about your direction, maybe it doesn't mean something has gone wrong. Maybe you are simply learning how to integrate, learning how to let inner stillness become outer direction, learning how to meet ordinary life from a different place. Perhaps the answers you are looking for won't arrive all at once. Perhaps they will reveal themselves one honest step, one experience, and one conversation at a time. You don't have to force your future, and you don't have to escape your present. You can simply stay open, stay curious, and keep moving in the direction that feels a little lighter, a little more honest, and a little more alive. Because maybe spirituality and practical life were never separate. Maybe they have always been inviting us to meet them together, one grounded step at a time. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to like the video. And if you'd like to continue exploring this journey together, feel free to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss future videos. You can also check out some of my other videos if you'd like to continue exploring these ideas. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.